I've met multimillionaires, billionaires who have been really kind and gracious with their time in mentoring me and educating me. And so today my brand is very much around like paying that forward. And so
Mhm.
I share kind of like the inside secrets to like advice that I've gotten from the 1% to others, because whether you want to create generational wealth or you just want to like grow your business a bit more, like there are certain things that you have to wrap your head around and do a bit differently that'll make a huge impact.
Welcome to the Women Choosing Growth podcast, where we bring you practical advice and guidance on how to grow your business and achieve success in your entrepreneurial journey. We feature inspiring stories of success, challenges of growth, and lessons learned from women entrepreneurs, industry experts, and thought leaders who have been through the growing pains inevitable as an entrepreneur. Whether you are just getting started or are looking to scale up your business, our show is designed to provide you with the tools, resources, and community you need to grow your business. Join your host, Tina, a lifelong entrepreneur and business growth advisor, as we explore topics such as marketing, sales, finance, leadership, and personal growth, all tailored specifically to the needs of women entrepreneurs. So if you're ready to grow your business faster and smarter, and learn from the experiences of those who have traveled the growth path before you, then this podcast is for you. Thanks for tuning in, and let's get started.
Welcome to another episode, ladies. I am your host, Tina Sue. This is Women Choosing Growth. And today we have with us Nikki Nash. Nikki is an author, a motivational speaker, podcast host, entrepreneur, and investor. She started her career in marketing by assembling kick-ass marketing teams and freeing visionary CEOs from the marketing grind. She worked directly with Fortune 100 companies and tech startups to help them make more money. Nikki's methodologies and framework have helped clients fill group programs, triple their revenue, double their profits, and so much more. As she continues to apply her knowledge to her own business, she has her marketing business running without her very little time at least involved. She now invests her time in vehicles that produce generational wealth. She strives to help close the gender and racial wealth gap in America. She shares with us today the secrets of 1% and how you too can build your wealth in addition to or in beyond your own business. She shares with us the steps to take to really think about how you spend your time and where your wealth actually comes from. You need to think a little bit differently, just like the 1% do. So sit back, be ready to have your mind blown, and really start thinking about what your future could be. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to another episode, ladies. I am super excited to bring today our guest, Nikki Nash, former master marketer who was helping women double their business in 12 to 18 months and turned serial entrepreneur and investor. And she is here with us today to share the secrets of the 1%. Welcome to the show, Nikki.
Thank you so much for having me.
Nikki, I know there's a long history of you used to work with Fortune 100 companies and startups, which is the uber growing companies, basically. And your expertise was to help them grow from 12 to 18 months and, make them grow even faster than they were, and been super successful at that. And now you have learned from other mentors and some business partners, and you are investing in multiple businesses as a serial entrepreneur yourself and investor. And I know you have a lot of wisdom to share with us today. But before we dive into all of those good nuggets, I want to hear about this journey. Like, how did this all come about?
Yeah, I think for me, the common theme in my life has been I would like more freedom and flexibility. And
Ditto.
so I started my career in advertising and ultimately ended up working in house at, big brands like the Fortune 100 companies. And right when I was leaving, I essentially found out that ovarian cancer ran in my family. And I don't we have the gene. I don't have the gene. My sister luckily doesn't have the gene, but my mom and her sister and their mother had the gene. And I remember it was right around the time Angelina Jolie wrote her op-ed called My Medical Choice about the gene that caused breast cancer in her family and how she chose to have preventative surgery. And I'm literally reading that article while I'm going to get tested to see if I have a very similar gene. And I ultimately, as I was thinking about it, it's like, I don't want to spend my life this far away from my family. I was living on the West Coast. My whole family was on the East Coast. I was working in a cubicle like all day, every day. Like it just was, I
Doing
was
the
like
grind.
doing the grind. I'm like, this isn't what I want my life to be. And so I left in pursuit of what's next, which I thought was going to be entrepreneurship. And that's what I love to do. And I had not done the level of, I don't know if I did any personal development really at that time, but definitely not the level that I continue to do at this point. And so fear came up, and I said to myself, like, I don't know if I can do this. I know I'm going to go be head of something at a tech startup and learn how to build a business before I start my own, right?
Okay.
So I left to be head of marketing at a tech startup, only to realize that nobody knows what they're doing. It's really just one giant science experiment. And
Exactly. No one in a tech startup usually knows what
yeah,
they're doing.
I mean, maybe if they've already had a track record of success in which they've done it already, they
Yeah. Or
still,
they're investors.
right, like they maybe have they're still figuring things out, but not to the degree that like the startup that I went to was figuring things out, right? And so
Yeah.
it was a really valuable experience and helped me realize that I might as well go out on my own and be my own guinea pig there, as opposed to like
Yeah.
figuring it out for somebody else. And so back in I want to say it was 2016. Yeah, 2016, I started my own business, and I started really being almost like a fractional CMO.
Mhm.
Not almost like, that's what I was. I was a fractional CMO for different tech startups, and then ultimately different like $1 million coaching companies. And I did that for a while. Then I started my own programs, like group programs, trainings, things along those lines. And long story short, I had a friend who went to this event as a guest of her husband. Her husband was invited into this private organization. They had events. She went to this event as a guest, and she came back and her mind was like blown. She's like, Nikki, here's all the things that we're doing wrong in life, right? Or in business, but from a lit up place,
An
right?
awakening.
Awakening, like, oh, this is why certain things work so well, but also we didn't get past this point, right? Like you can get really far in business. Like we could get to multiple six
Mhm.
figures. Like we can get far. You can even get to seven figures, having a decent amount of things not going well. But
Oh,
it's
yes. I've coached
really,
some people like, how'd you
yes.
get here? For sure.
How did you get here? Yeah, I've coached like 8-figure business owners, and I'm
Yes.
like, this is a disaster, but okay.
Yeah. A
So
profitable disaster, but a disaster.
so you can get
Yes.
really far, but it's hard to maintain. It definitely impacts your peace, all this other stuff. And she left this event learning from somebody who's in like the 1% of the 1%, who's made billions of dollars in business, about like, hey, here's why certain things don't work. And here are some of the fundamental principles and laws and just like understandings about business that not everybody knows, but like, and not just business, it was like business and then also just wealth creation. She was like, you got to go to one of these things. So, but it's invite only. You had to be a member of an organization or a guest of somebody who was a member of the organization. So ultimately, I was able to get into the organization and um, go to an event, and it literally like just changed my perspective on so much. And I ultimately met a number of people in the 1%. I've met multimillionaires, billionaires who have been really kind and gracious with their time in mentoring me and educating me. And so today my brand is very much around like paying that forward. And so
Mhm.
I share kind of like the inside secrets to like advice that I've gotten from the 1% to others, because whether you want to create generational wealth or you just want to like grow your business a bit more, like there are certain things that you have to wrap your head around and do a bit differently that'll make a huge impact.
I think that's amazing that you're sharing it. Like you said, you're giving it forward because people were nice enough to share that, let you in the secret group, and then now you're here sharing it with us. So thank you so much for that. Where do you start with that? Because that sounds like you probably just your mind was blown. So like,
Yeah.
where do we start?
I think we start with like the first thing that blew my mind, because it's like when I heard it and got it, I'm pretty confident it wasn't the first thing that was said to me, but it was definitely the first thing that landed.
The big aha.
The big aha. And that big aha was really around how I spend my time as a business owner.
Mm.
And you've probably coached and supported gosh knows how many people who have been in this boat where you are almost like too busy for your own success. Like you are
Oh,
working
totally.
all the time. Like you don't have time to think. You're
I was
lucky if
guilty
you
of it myself back in the day. Yes.
there were days where I'm lucky if I got a pee break. Like I'm literally like late to the next meeting because I'm running to the bathroom, trying to drink some water, seeing if I had anything lying around that I can shove in my mouth real quick so my stomach would stop growling during the calls. Like I was that person.
Yes. Relatable.
And
Wait,
it's like,
isn't that how we're supposed to be as entrepreneurs?
I mean, that's what people want you to think. That's the way
Yeah.
life is supposed to be as entrepreneurs. But the problem is that the people that I saw that were most successful, a common theme that they kept saying was that, oh, I had time, like I needed time to think and to strategize and I needed space. And I'm like, space? I don't have space in my brain for anything. It's always on. It wakes me up at night with the things that are going on.
Mhm.
And so the first big thing was like, they're like, Nikki, and even though this was in in an event and they weren't literally saying Nikki, it felt like they were saying Nikki.
Yeah,
They were like,
sure.
Nikki,
Yeah, like you.
you right there.
You in the third row.
Yeah.
This is for you.
This
Ladies
is
listening, we're speaking to you.
yeah, we are calling you out.
Yes.
So hopefully people hear this and they're like, damn, Nikki looked me in the eye.
Exactly. She said.
She said that like you have to cut down the hours that you're spending to fund your lifestyle, right? And so one of my mentors calls this dimes. He's like, you've got your dimes and you've got your dollars, and your dimes fund your lifestyle. So that could be like, he's like, it should fund a nice lifestyle, like the home you live in, vacations. Like it doesn't mean like you're living, eating, ramen every night, but like a good lifestyle. And he's like, but don't make it like, I need $1 million to live a good lifestyle. He's like, no, you could live a good lifestyle on like a few $100,000 depending on the size of your family. Now, if you're like some people I know that have 10 kids, they're obviously their lifestyle budget is going to be greater.
7 here. Yeah.
Yeah, like, have different lifestyle budgets.
Yes.
But the rule remains the same, is that I should not be spending more than 25 hours of my week on the vehicle that brings in my dimes. So as we're business owners, that means like you literally have to go, I'm working on, in, however you want to think about it, your business, but you got to cut those hours down to 25 or less a week. For me, he was like, you got to get it down to 10, like as we started. So it's like, I'm talking, you got to dramatically cut how much time you're spending without impacting your income. And what's crazy is what helped me get started is one of my guy friends that I met through this event heard the same message, started doing it. And he's like, I am making more money while working less. And I'm like, that's amazing. And some things that it can force you to do is really think about the clients you're taking on. Mm-hmm. Right? Like if I have to work less time, I had to start thinking about, okay, well, what are the types of clients or projects that I wanted to take on? Who are those pitas, like the pain in the tushy,
Mm-hmm.
that take up way too much time and energy and things like that. And so that was kind of a big piece of it. And then the other, it doesn't mean you're like sipping poolside, drinking margaritas. It means that now the rest of that time is the space that you need to be in the right rooms, to learn about different vehicles for wealth, to work on bigger deals, to do things like that. And so that was kind of the first big aha for me.
Mm-hmm. I like it. And I'm sitting there going, okay, I have days where I'm shoving something in my mouth and sitting at my desk and looking for water. Yes, that is awesome. That was your first mind blown.
Yeah, that was the first one.
And what is the time frame? I mean, it's not like you just kill all your clients tomorrow. So thinking about the listeners and they're like, okay, this makes sense. And you have people who have done it and it's successful.
Yeah.
There's just make it a priority.
Yeah, it has to be a priority, and it has to be almost like a boundary that you set, like a line in the sand. And if you
Like
have
that.
any team members, then they have to kind of be on board with, hey, it's not that I'm going to be sipping poolside margaritas, but I'm working on some bigger projects for the advancement of what, maybe it's the company, maybe it's the impact that you're looking to create in the world. And so you have to cut down your hours. And so for me, some of the things that I did was, there were client contracts that were coming to an end, and I knew that these clients were either, I was being underpaid, or either literally or by fraction of math, because they were requiring so much more
Sure.
energy and time than normal contracts
Yeah.
did.
Like your time margin, right? Your time
Yes,
margin.
my time margin was off. So I was just like, not renewing, right? You can also decide to fire clients. I should tell people in advance that, because there's going to be a scale of how long it takes people to do this and what's going to
Mhm.
feel most comfortable. But like, the first thing you have to get clear on is like, where is your time going right now? And how are you going to reduce the time? Is it through delegating? Is it through eliminating stuff? Is it through changing your client base? You have to kind of look at what you're doing now. For me, I love to tell clients that you got to be a little delusional. I'm delusional. And so I'm just like, we're doing it tomorrow, right? Like, I'm crazy. And so I blocked out
That's
I'm
why
like,
I like you.
like, I'm like, we got to go. We got to rip off the Band-Aid. So I'm
Snap.
like blocking off time. Like, I cannot work these hours. I cannot work weekends. I can only work in these amount of time.
Mhm.
And it really forced me to prioritize. It forced me to cut off a bunch of stuff that wasn't that important. It forced me to go like, it forced me to change my goal, quite frankly, because a big piece of that was, I'm not trying to make millions through my business anymore. I'm just trying to fund my lifestyle. Because another piece of this is that, depending on the business you're in, but especially for folks like me that were in the service-based business, like,
Yeah, you're tied to hours.
I'm tied to hours. I'm not getting generationally wealthy based off of my hours. So
Yep.
it was like, you just need to fund a good lifestyle for yourself in as few hours as possible, so that you can spend time in vehicles that are actually going to help you, like, accumulate wealth.
Mhm. Love
So
that.
yeah, my goal changed. I wasn't like, let me try to make this 8-figure coaching business. I was like, screw that. I don't want an 8-figure. I need like a 6-figure, like a high 6-figure, maybe 7-figure coaching business that pays me 6 figures. But quite frankly, with my margins, I was like, I need a good 6-figure coaching
Mhm.
program that pays me 6 figures, because I'm single and, all this other stuff to live my life. And then I need to do that in as few hours as possible.
So once that is aligned and people are head down making that happen, what is the next? Like, what is that generational wealth? How do you know what the bigger fish, if you will,
Yeah.
is
Yeah. So I know I've
or
told you
should
this,
be?
or should be. I know I've told you
Should
this
be.
story before. So I'm going to
Mhm.
just share the story for folks really
Is
quickly,
this
because
the fish?
it is.
That's why I
We're
dropped
gonna
that.
be
What's the next fish? What's the
we're going to
big
be
fish?
fishermen here, peeps. Mind you, keep in mind, because I do have female friends that are like, actually like fishing. I know nothing about fishing. So as I tell this story, please do not analyze the accuracy of what I'm about to say. It's to paint a picture in your mind. This is a fictional story that my mentor told. He actually did a TEDx on it. So I can even give you the link for the show notes so people can watch it from the horse's mouth, because this is going to
Yes.
be a digest version.
I liked your version, so let's go with it.
So picture that you are a salmon fisherman, right? And that's how you are making your money and feeding your family and feeding yourself and things along those lines. And so salmon are, I said salmon and I meant sardine. I'm already messing up the story. Pretend you're a sardine fisherman.
Tiny fish. If you're watching, it's a
Rewind.
tiny fish,
I'm
not a
also
big
a vegetarian, which is probably why I shouldn't be the one telling this story, because I'm like, fish size. What size?
like a tiny
You're,
baby salmon.
it's like, it begins with an S. It's a fish.
Yes.
You are a
Sardine.
fisherman, right? And so they're tiny fish, but you use that to feed your family and fund your life. You sell the fish, you eat the fish, which means you need a lot of fish, because
Mhm.
you probably aren't getting a crazy amount of money for this tiny fish. And you also need a lot of those tiny fish to eat to feed yourself and sustain your family, right? So
Mhm.
you have a net to capture these fish, right? So you go out every morning, you go out, you throw the net, and you get all these sardines, and like, that's how you're living your life. But all your friends are sardine fishermen, you're like living in Sardine Town, and you're like, you're living a good life, but you're working hard. You're working hard. You're working all the time. Your shoulders are starting to hurt from throwing the net for so darn long. And one day you just happen to look back and you're like, what are those guys doing? You see people with a rod, like kind of doing that gesture. Again, don't judge me. I am not a fisherman. And you're like, what are they doing back there? So you ask your buddy, like, hey, what the heck are they doing? And your buddy's like, oh, them be sardine fish or salmon fishermen. See, still can't get the fish name right. They're salmon fishermen. And you're like, really? What are they doing? And you're like, yeah, they catch sardines, these like big fish compared to a sardine. So you're like, all right, I think that I need to be a salmon fisherman because they're catching bigger fish and their homes look a bit nicer. And they're like, they're not out here as many hours as I am. Like, I need to do that. But you can't just go and quit being a sardine fisherman and become a salmon fisherman all of a sudden because you literally don't know how to catch a salmon. I am really, guys are.
It's good. It's good. We just shouldn't have two S's.
Just change up the baby fish, big fish. I need to stop
baby fish, medium fish.
And start catching bigger fish because like that's what's going to bring me more money. But like you can't just do it overnight. You need different equipment. You need maybe different throwing techniques. You need to actually know where the salmon are going. Like they don't travel the same way sardines do, right? They may be even in different climate water. I don't know. I'm not a fisherman, but like you'd have to actually understand how to catch salmon, right? How to catch those bigger fish. Yep. So what you decide to do is you're like, all right, I'm going to get really, really efficient at catching just enough sardines to make our living and to, feed the family so that I can then go learn from the salmon fishermen, right? So you get up early, you're out there before everybody else, you catch your sardines, you get it done, your family's fed, you're making some money, and then you're like spending the rest of the day going out and learning from this salmon fisherman. You're like, hey buddy, can you teach me this? You watch them, they maybe lend you a rod real quick that they had extra, you're getting some skills, and then you catch your first salmon and you're like, I am now a salmon fisherman. Like, this is great.
I've got it.
I got it, right? Because now you feel unstoppable. You've done it once. So you're like, I can do this again. And so you get better and better. Bam. You're like, I now can give up being a sardine fisherman and only catch salmon because I now can catch enough salmon, which isn't as many sardines as I needed to feed my family and to, have money.
Live the lifestyle,
right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And maybe even like, hey, heck, I don't even have to work as hard because I catch some salmon and now I'm good for like 2-3 weeks or a month, as opposed to having to catch sardines every day, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're like working less, you have more time, you're feeling great. You look back and you see these guys in camo with guns and you're like, what the heck are those people doing? And you see them go out in packs and some don't come back and you're like, what the heck? So you ask your buddy, like, what are they doing? And they're like, those are bear hunters, right? They're catching bear. And you're like, what the heck is that? And you're like, yeah, they catch all this meat. Like, it's crazy. So you're like, I want to learn how to do that. But again, you can't just go out there with it. You'll die. Like, just like going out to the woods and being like, hi, Mr. Bear, how you doing? Like, it's not going to go.
Come home with me.
You have to like do what you did before, which is get really efficient at catching salmon, right? And then go and meet a bear hunter and meet the person that knows what they're doing and have them train and guide you. So you maybe go on a bear hunt every now and then because they're like, you don't want to be out here every day. Like statistically, it's not going to go well. So you catch your salmon continuously. You have more free time. You go out and you do an occasional bear hunt with someone. And then one day you catch a bear and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm set for life. Maybe not life, but you're set for a long time because that bear, what you sold with like all the elements of the bear really put a good nest egg in your bank. Like you're good, right? And so what you decide to do is, because you talk to the bear hunters and you're like, oh, okay, I have to move to Salmon Town, continue to catch salmon, and then strategically on occasion go out and do a bear hunt or two, right? Because that then, like, I have my lifestyle is more than covered. I also have the money to get the gear to go out and do the bear hunting on my periodical thing. That brings me in more money, sets me up for a long period of time, and I'm living a great life. And this is all the metaphor for like most people, especially me, like salmon, we're sardine fishermen,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
even with like a golden net, like, because it's not that, oh, I have good money. Like me, middle class, my parents, we were golden sardine fishermen. Like both my parents were doctors. My mom was in private practice. She made good money, but she worked all the time, all the
Sure.
time. Right. So the story kind of illustrates something I said before, but also gets us into where should you be investing, like for the wealth perspective. And the idea is first you have to get yourself out of sardine town, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to get really efficient, and goes back to like, how do you cut your hours? Get really efficient at it, cut it down in hours. Maybe you still have your clients, but you figure out how to do it in fewer times. Maybe that means like hiring somebody on your team that gets grunt work done, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you do, and maybe it cuts into your profit margins a little bit, but it frees you up, right? So it's like cut down time, get really efficient at it, go and learn how to get bigger fish, right? So how
Mm-hmm.
do you get a bigger client or something that can sustain you, right? Like how do you have that client where, oh wow, instead of me getting 5 or 10 or 15 clients to pay me what like one bigger client could pay me, like how do
Mm-hmm.
you learn the skills and work on that? Then you have fewer clients. Hopefully it doesn't eat up as much time. You strategically do it. But now you have more space and capacity on your calendar, and you can learn and meet someone who uh, does bigger deals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that could be the vehicle that sets you up for wealth. And so the bigger deals, like the bear deals, you're thinking about how can I do a strategic venture that creates a cash flow appreciating, and sometimes it's not always cash flowing, but definitely appreciating asset, right? Like I just invested in a startup. I think they were doing an early stage round, and they already have amazing contracts. Like it's the track record of the person who started this. They have built more than one $100 million company. Like I'm not worried about their track record. Like
Yeah.
this
You're not worried about your investment.
he's in an industry that is blowing up. Like he's really looking at solving a housing crisis that we have around the world, especially whether it comes to housing. I know now there's all these new terms for things, but folks that are homeless, or whether it comes down to like tiny homes, there's all these trends happening. And he
Mm-hmm.
has a vehicle that will he already has contracts with certain cities, right? To produce homes quickly, more efficiently from recycled material, so it costs less, and they're sturdy, and like there's just so much magic behind it, and it's in a vehicle of real estate. I invest in that. When I invested, they were at a certain valuation. They did a valuation about a month or two, like a new one after I had already invested. And that new valuation was, I think, a 50% increase from what I invested. So my
Mm-hmm.
money, like normal stock market, you're happy if your return is like, you know what I mean? Like 9%.
Yeah.
I just got a 50% increase in a month.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Even the Amazons of the world of the
but the
stock
only
market don't do that.
Right. But the only reason why I had even heard of that is because I had enough time to start getting into rooms with different people, to hear about this opportunity, to meet the person, to have really great conversations with them and go, this is something that I'm willing to bet on. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm willing to bet on it, not because I'm just a risk taker, which I am on every assessment known to man. This felt like a very calculated risk because it was somebody who had a track record of success. They already had proof of contract with having some like government contracts and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, they're I trust the person, so I'm willing to do it, right? So
Yep.
it's those sorts of things, but it really comes down to thinking about how do you cut down your hours? How do you get in the room with these people, which I have some ideas and thoughts on creative ways to do it, which I'll share. And then
Perfect.
like, how do you even give yourself the space to start thinking about like, and being open to some of these opportunities? Because it's not that there aren't opportunities in front of people. I know for myself, looking back, I'm like, 10 years ago, I had this opportunity to do things with Bitcoin from somebody, right? And
Oops.
oops. Yeah. And I was too busy focused on some other stuff and I
Yeah.
didn't understand it. But had I had the thought of, instead of just going, I don't understand it, never mind, to have the space to try to understand it and ask some
Yeah.
questions, I probably could have put in like $50 and
Yes. Yes. We had the same. We still talk about like, oh, remember when we first looked at Bitcoin and what it was compared to what it is today. So
Yeah.
be mindful of those opportunities that come knocking.
Yes, absolutely. And realize that they're going to constantly, it's not like there are so many that I think about, oh, I missed that. I missed that. But I'm like, there's always new ones
Yep.
and you're not the same person. So, but you have to have the space to be able to look into
Mhm.
it, to ask questions, to see if the person who's telling you about it is like legit or has a track record of any
Yeah.
sort of
Because,
success.
yeah, there's plenty of bad opportunities out there as well.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, before we dive back in, I want to take a moment to talk about something that can take what you're learning today in this episode, as well as our previous episodes, and turn it into something that is real strategic growth for your business. For example, if you're feeling inspired by what you're hearing today, maybe you want to improve your leadership. Maybe you want to refine your systems. Maybe you want to build a more scalable business. Maybe you just want to get out of your own way and break free from those limiting beliefs that may be holding you back. If are you feeling that way, then you are exactly the kind of entrepreneur who will thrive in our strategic shift program. You see, it's designed for women entrepreneurs just like you, who are established, ambitious, and ready to build something that is not just successful today, but is positioned for more growth, long-term value, and freedom, right? That's why we're in business in the first place. In this program, you'll get proven framework, tools and resources, financial insights, strategic mindset shifts, everything that you need to work methodically through the growth of your business. And the best part is it grows with you. This isn't a course that you just take once and has basic business information in it. This is something that has the actual tools as if you were working alongside a coach to help you build the foundation and continue to build on it year after year as you continue to scale. It's even designed to work with your leadership team once you get to that point in your business. So if you're serious about building a business that is valuable today and continues to grow in value while you're not having to work harder, then check out the strategic shift on Tina-Sue. Look for courses and look for strategic shift. So let's get back to our show. So find the space. I know you are real strategic in helping people also understand, like, it's not just get that bigger client. Don't, if you're a sardine, I had to think about what's the baby fish. If you're a
Yeah.
sardine fisherman, it's not just like, oh, I need to get bigger clients, because once you free up that space, it could be something completely different. So when you think about wealthy people, like, just, stop and think about the people that, they have multiple different income streams. It's not, oh, I'm doing marketing, so I'm going to get bigger clients because Nikki told me I needed bigger fish. It's do your fishing, but also do your hunting and do your thing, which, how do people decide or start to think like, what is that? What is the bear for me?
Yeah. The first thing I will say is like you have to get your lifestyle covered because like there are and then I'm going to go into how do you identify your bear, but like one of the big mistakes that I've seen people make is they go everybody talks about diversifying your income and they start diversifying their income, but none of their income is stable. So they just have like 7 risky things going on and
Yeah.
then
Who's
like
paying me today?
right. You need like the vehicle that like probably the thing you're already in that's making you good money, make it efficient, make it consistent. And then you're like, all right, I know I've got money coming in. Right. So I changed my contracts with certain clients so that it was more like retainer like, or like, it was a combination of I get a base amount and rev share so that like I switched it a little bit to make sure that my living lifestyle expenses, I had enough coming in every month to run my business and pay myself. And also simultaneously doing these deals in such a way that
Mm-hmm.
they don't need me on everything. Like I can hire somebody for even like one of my projects, somebody was like $100 an hour. It was still profitable for me, right? Like, because
Because
sometimes I
it's
need
not you.
because
Yeah.
it's not me, right? Like I
Yep.
didn't have to touch certain things, which is great.
All day long. Yep.
So that's the thing. Then when it comes to finding your bear deal, you want to choose, like, you really want to start by knowing yourself and what you're good at. Because here's the thing that I messed up on. There are like, you could go on any social media platform and probably just the internet, and there's going to be somebody telling you that this is the thing that they did that made them millions or billions of dollars, right? Like,
Yes.
even just in real estate, you've got the guy talking about Section 8, you've got the guy talking about wholesaling, you got the guy talking about flipping, you got the guy talking about Airbnb, you got the guy talking about don't buy the Airbnbs, lease lease a property from a landlord and get the ability to sublease and then put that on Airbnb. Like, there's five, and I'm not even listing all of them, right? Like,
Yes,
there's so
exactly.
many strategies, right? And most people will go, real estate, that's how I'm going to make my money. So I'm going to just do this thing. This guy's talking about real estate. I'm going to do it. Here's what I did. I had signed up and I thought I was going to do this one program. It was about wholesaling, which wholesaling is essentially like I buy, I'll use this example with land, but it's like I will buy this piece of land and then I will sell the piece of land to somebody else. But like I didn't actually put the money down to buy the piece of property, right? Like, I got it under contract and then I had another buyer and I got that under contract. And then the person B who bought the property, or there's a person A who's selling a property, me who's B who's buying it in contract with A, then B gets a contract with C, and C pays more than what I, being B, paid for A. And then I just take the middle, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you're literally the middleman, like
Middleman, middle woman. Yes.
Middle woman, right? Like, that's a type of real estate. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Except for my skill sets, my time availability, and my desires for what I was trying to get into real estate for were not at all aligned with this strategy. And I was like, I didn't realize that until I started it, because I didn't have the space to ask questions and to look at it. I just went, real estate makes people wealthy, I'm in.
Bob's making money, so can I.
Right, literally. So like, you have to understand, like, what type of vehicle are you looking at? For me, I was looking at something that I could own and it would appreciate in value. I was looking at something that would ideally cash flow somewhat passively, you know? But the big thing for me was really the appreciation piece, because another thing that I heard and learned is that it is so much faster to, how do I want to put this? I'll put this another way. A lot of wealth is perception, like, when you really think about it. Like, it's all perceived value, right? So if you look at my parents' house, my parents bought their house in, like, let's just say 1991. I can't remember exactly, but let's say that's when they bought it. And let's say they bought it for, like, I think they bought it for less than this, but let's say they bought it for $500,000, right?
Sure.
I'm just going to make the math easy for me. Their house,
it's a nice house in 1991.
Right. Yeah. But I think they bought it for like maybe 300 or something. Right. But either way, their house now is worth over $1 million. Did they put $500,000 of resources and renovations into it? No, they remodeled the kitchen once and put a new roof over it. But like, the perceived value of that home is now well over $1 million. Right.
Yep.
What that means is that on paper, my parents are asset rich millionaires. They also have other investments and stuff. But like, if they needed to go to the bank and say, hey, I'm worth all this money and I need some money, the bank would give them money, because they're like, you're worth this much. Sure, we'll give you, $500,000 or whatever. Right. The reason why that's important is because I can create perceived value more quickly than I could probably get to 10 millions in value than I can to get to 10 million in revenue in a business. Which means if I had 10 million in value, I could still go to the bank and be like, can I have $10 million or $5 million or $8 million?
Very true.
Right.
Yes.
And they would do it. And
it's your net worth statement.
100%. They're like, oh, this wealthy person. Totally. Right.
Yeah.
And so I started looking at, okay, well, what aligns with my skills that would allow me to get into assets that would increase my wealth position. Right. And I'll just throw out some ideas so that people can have different thoughts. That could mean an app development. You can create apps nowadays for not a lot of money, right? But I could develop an app that give it away for free, and then get a valuation from a company the same way you would get a house appraised. And somebody could say, you know what, that app, based off of the people that you have in it and the data that you're collecting from these people, is worth, $3 million.
Yep.
Okay, great. Now put that on paper, get that in the books. My business is worth $3 million. Hey, bank, I need a loan for $1 million or $2 million. I've got this $3 million business. And they're like, okay, here you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like just to get people thinking differently. It could be an app idea that you've had, right? It could be a piece of real estate or a property, right? It could be a startup that has a good track record of success and things like that. Some things that I'm doing now is like I have invested dollars. I've also invested time. Like I'll do sweat equity where I'm like, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
member. Like I'll be your fractional CMO or I'll be your I'll do something or advisor for equity in for a percentage of the company. Like,
Yep.
you know what I
I
mean?
do the same.
Right?
Yep. It's either investing with dollars as a percent, helping women grow their business, or through sweat equity of coaching
Yeah.
for sure. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And so it's just like you just have to, in order to see your bear, sometimes it's like, I already see this person, they're doing this thing and they just need help with marketing. Like I've literally done this for people where they're like, we've got everything down. They just need help with marketing. I take marketing for granted because I'm literally looking
Yeah.
at their thing and I'm like, that's not that hard. And I'm not even the doer. They just need a strategy. They're like, we have doers. They just don't know what to do. And I'm like, so you just
Mm-hmm.
need me to tell people what to do and build a strategy?
Sign me up.
Okay. Like, you're going to give me
We're good at
equity
telling people what to
in
do.
this company that's already worth this amount? Okay. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, sure. But it's about like, so often people are constantly just thinking of, I need more clients, I need more clients, I need more clients. And so if you're thinking, I need more clients, that's literally all you're focused on. So every opportunity is like filtered through, are you a new client or not? Where this person may not be a new client in the traditional sense of like, they're going to pay me X amount of dollars to do A, B, C, and D, but it could be that they're the person that, you know, needs me for like 10 minutes and in time, right? In theory, and then like gives me equity in the company. Or sometimes I'm just really good at networking and knowing or building relationships with people because I'm not actually a great networker, but I am great at relationship
Yes.
building and
Same,
I'm
same,
great at
same.
connecting the dots. So if I see that Susie over here is missing a piece in her business, like needs something, and Bob over here needs the opposite of what Susie needs, but has what Susie needs, and had they been combined, bam, together, they have a like $10 million deal or something, I can
Mm-hmm.
go, hey guys, I'm going to connect you two, but I'm going to have you both sign like a do not circumvent thing where I'm going to get a piece of the business as the matchmaker here. And you can't like do deals without paying me. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's another thing. There's
That's
all
another thing.
these different bears kind of scenarios that I would not have discovered if I didn't take the time to shrink how much I was spending in my business and get in rooms with people that are doing things differently.
Mm-hmm. I like that. So thinking about not just building the current business with the bear, but really what are you passionate about? What is going to get you excited and where your skill set is at? Because
Yeah.
the whole middleman real estate thing,
It was not
that
good.
doesn't
Not a
excite
good,
me either.
it wasn't good for me, but I didn't
Yeah.
know. And then I was beating myself up over not becoming incredibly wealthy by a strategy that was not in alignment with the time I had and the
Right.
skills I had. And I'm like, you could spend all your time developing new skills, or you can go, what skills do I already have?
Yes.
And where
Yeah.
could they be really valuable in a lane that would make me incredibly wealthy?
Right. And so that middleman was perfect for someone else who had the real estate background, but
100%,
so
or even just likes
mhm.
being the middleman. Like they could have been a middleman in something else and probably cleaned up there, but it just was not. It was not fun for
Yeah.
me.
And
Yeah,
I think that's really important to think about, like what makes us excited, what's going to, want to make us jump out of bed in the morning when we've got different fish to catch. Um and it doesn't have to be, I think a lot of people think, oh, well, that might be greedy if we're connecting two people and then what we want a piece of the pie. But really it comes back down to like, what is your personal mission in life and what is your values? If it's to connect people to help them grow, is that really greedy?
yeah. You added value. Like they both. That's no different than me going into someone's business and clearly seeing the gap and telling them what the gap is. People
Yep.
get paid. That's called consulting. People get paid for that all the time. If you're looking at two people and you're going, huh, and like you have to think about the time and energy that you put in to developing those relationships. Granted, you probably weren't doing it for money, but you did it. And now it's profitable for somebody. So why not just say, hey guys, like, I would like to, and don't introduce them and then ask them for money later. Say, hey, I have somebody who I think would be a good person for you. I would like to get in an agreement if you're open to it or okay with it, where if you two connect, do business, and this is profitable and makes you, I would like, a piece of the pie, and here's how much I would like. And
Rev
then
share.
you can say yes or no. And most people will say, yeah, like you're thinking of deals that are bigger. Like if you're connecting them and you're helping them create something that's multiple millions of dollars, giving you a little piece of that is not going to, they're probably going to be like, sure, whatever. I'm going to be making millions or billions or whatever anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
It's rev share. You mentioned it earlier as one of your income streams is rev share. So, and we just think about, I think this is probably an easy thing for people to, grasp their head around because we do rev share all the time. The amount of money it takes to capture a new ideal client from social media or however it is, salespeople, right? There's a cost to that, cost of acquisition of a new client. But if
Absolutely.
you're going to introduce me to one, that's money I don't have to pay. You're literally emailing me. So I didn't pay a dime for that new client to come in because you're my partner. Of course, I'm going to pay you a portion of that because I just saved potentially, depending on your business, cost of acquisition could be thousands.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, would I pay you $500 or $1,000 or maybe even two? Maybe I'll pay you more because what's the lifetime value of that client? Now that you brought that client to me, they're going to be my client for 5 years. I'm going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm going to pay you a piece of that.
And
That's
sometimes
rev
it's not,
share.
yeah. And sometimes it's not even clients. Like I haven't done this, but I know someone who has a track record of success in the fitness industry, who's made like billions in it, right? And he's getting into cryo fitness things, right?
It's a thing.
It's a thing. Right? And he had shared to me, he's like, what I really need is this type of person, because if I can partner with them on this, we can make this much money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm sitting there like, I don't know anybody there yet, but I am more than happy. Like it's worth it for me to start seeing if I can get connected to that type of person, because this guy's already has a track record for everything he does, basically makes billions of dollars. So if I can be like, hey, you need this strategic partner,
Mm-hmm.
and I find out they're really successful, or I vet them for them, I can even ask like, hey buddy, what do you need me to find out about this person before I even consider connecting you? Right. So
Yep.
it's not like I'm doing nothing.
Little due diligence.
A
Yep.
little due diligence, right? And then I know that they're together going to make billions. I can just say like, hey, can I have, a 0.5% or 1% of everything you guys do together in this venture into this industry that I don't really have to know anything about? And they could be like 100%, Nikki. Some of the nice ones will be like, Nikki, actually, you're underbidding
You're
yourself
under.
on that.
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
what we're going to do for you. We love you. You're special. You're not saying enough. But that can set me up for passive income for like, millions of dollars every year, hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. And I did something once,
Yep.
connecting two people.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
It's thinking like that, or even just having the awareness to know that that's possible.
Mm-hmm. I know you mentioned this in the beginning of part of your story, and I know we've talked about it offline. A big part of this transformation in thinking and really putting a vision to the future that you want is really about the people that you're learning from. So
Yeah.
that was one of your aha moments, like when you met this person who met someone and who went to a show or a conference, whatever. So how do people get in the room with the right people?
Yeah. There, some people are like, it was just luck. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, for some of it, but
Oh, serendipity.
yeah, but there's literally things that you can do that I've watched people do that I'm starting to do that is like ingenious, right? So I'm starting, probably, yeah, by the time this airs, it probably wouldn't have launched yet. So I'm starting a podcast called Rollin' with the 1%. And I'm literally interviewing 1%ers, right?
Okay.
And my mentor actually helped me. Like we strategized what the concept of the show was and the name and things like that. But he's like, you meet them and then I'll tell you where the ideas went from there. But it's like, you can start a podcast and some people are like, I need to monetize it or do all these things. Honestly, I'm like, I'm creating a podcast to meet strategically meet the type of people that I need to know.
Literally why I started Women Choosing Growth. There was no monetization in the first year or so. Yeah.
It's like, I need to strategically connect with some people.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to say, hey, I have this show and I want to interview you on it. You know what I mean?
And of course
Right?
they're going to. Yeah.
Right?
Share
Like
their
that's
wisdom.
fun, especially if you're like a kind, good, easy, like, going person. Or sometimes it's like you just need to land one and then you're like, hey, I'm trying to think of a, big
Are we
person.
having Elon on the podcast?
We'll put that out in the
He's a little
universe, right?
right now,
Yeah,
like
he's got
as we're
stuff going
recording
on,
this in
but
January.
right? But like, let's say you're like fascinated with, Selena Gomez. I don't know why she just came into my head, but maybe you're interviewing like actresses. Maybe that's the
Sure.
whole point of your show, or who you want to get in front of. It's like, who's the one actress that you can get on that maybe a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend knows or something. You just need one person,
And
like,
name drop.
and then you record it and then you can send it as like, hey, here's a trailer of what the show could look like, right? Like, I've had a couple of, like, my mentor agreed to be on the show. I know a couple of other one percenters. I'm like, great, we're going to record those episodes. We're going to make a trailer of the show. I'm going to like have a bunch of people on my newsletter. I'm building a newsletter. They get free content, value, early insight into or information from these interviews. But I have an audience of people that I'm like, hey, I have the trailer out. Can you go like the show? I get all these comments, things.
It's the whole, that's your marketing brain going on with.
Right? It's like, it's all perception. Like, that's what really, I'm like, oh, it's just perception. So like, I have this show.
It's the FOMO of the other one
Right?
percenters. Yeah.
And then I'm like, hey, first of all, it's a compliment. Hey, I see you as a one percenter that's doing great things in the world. I'd like to have you on my show. Here's a little bit of who I've already interviewed, what the show's like. They look it up. I have all these people that have already like left ratings and reviews because I let them see the episodes I recorded early before I released them. So they're giving legit feedback. And they're like, yes, I would like to be on this new show for your first season where you already have great people. That sounds delightful, right? But you do stuff like that and you're like, great, now I'm learning from these folks. And then I go, hey, where do you learn this stuff? Like, what events do you go to? Do you belong to any? Ask them questions. Then you know what rooms to be in.
Yep, exactly.
You want to take it further. These are other ideas I had. I was like, then you can host either a conference or a dinner and invite all these people so that they get to meet each other, value add, right? Then they see you as the person that knows all these one percenters. And you can say, who else should be at this dinner or whatnot? We'll do dinner first, right? Then you can take pictures at the dinner. People perceive you as the person that knows all these cool folks. And they're like, I'm a one percenter or somebody that needs to know Nikki Nash. She seems to know everybody, right? It's perception. You can literally host a conference, invite all the people that you just had on your podcast to speak at the conference, right? If you need to pay them, maybe like sell a bunch of tickets, say who, like, I'm going to have these people speak. And then you speak on the stage too. I'm sharing the stage.
Yep. With one percenters.
With all these people that you just create. Like, I'm not saying I'm doing all of these things, but these were just ideas that I had that I wrote down because I realized that like a lot of being able to get in the right rooms is about perception. And I learned this from looking at other people that seemingly became an overnight success, knowing they haven't, but it's because suddenly other people were having them on their shows or promoting them all over the place, which means they had to spend time getting connected to all of these people, which means they were probably at a dinner or probably like one person said, you need to know, so-and-so. And all of a sudden everybody, like, they've broken out of obscurity and everybody knows them.
So really they need the one person who's in that 1% or close to it, and then continue to network and like mine the crowd. Basically.
Right. And it could be 1%. It could be in a specific industry that you want to invest in. It could be like, you just want to think like, what is my wealth lane? Like, what is the vehicle that I want to use to create wealth? If it's really like, for me, if I wanted to get into real estate, a specific type of real estate, I would literally start a free podcast and say, hey, we're teaching newbies in this vehicle of real estate how to do real estate. and then you interview those folks, not only are you learning how, you are the newbie that's learning how to do the real estate, but now
Yep.
you have connections with all these people. And then you could say, hey, come to a dinner or this, that, and the other. How do you do JVs? Like maybe they'll start thinking of you. Hey, I'm doing this deal, do you have 10 grand, 20 grand? We're buying an apartment complex, right? Like whatever it
Yep.
is, suddenly you're considered in these deals because they know you and you've built the relationship and you've built the trust.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have that intention in that that thought ahead of time.
Yep.
Right.
The future vision.
100%. Because I have another podcast, Market Your Genius. Loved the show. Did not think strategically about how to really work that show at all. And I look back and I'm like,
Isn't that entrepreneurship though? I mean, we're constantly figuring things out. And if you look back one day or one decade, it's like, oh man, it's embarrassing now. Not that your podcast is, but I'm like, just in life, it's like, ooh, wow. When I first started, I didn't have a clue either. So that's why I help women today.
Absolutely. I forget. There is this guy, I don't remember who told me this story, unfortunately, but he wanted to start a mastermind. And so what he did was he found one person that he knew was big that a lot of people would want to be in a mastermind with. And he worked a relationship and said things like, who would you want to be in a mastermind with? Right. And if these people were in a mastermind, would you absolutely join? Got them to say yes. Cool. Maybe even got them to put down a deposit and said, hey, I'm going to get these people, but if I don't, I'll give you your money back. Right. Finds those people, say, hey, I've got so-and-so in a mastermind. Would you we're building this mastermind, so-and-so's in it. You want to join? They're like, yeah, I admire that guy, or I want to do business with that guy. So they just literally built a mastermind for people that were already successful. This person was like, not in comparison, right? Like didn't see themselves that way, but now is leading the mastermind of all of these great people and really just facilitating the conversation and the relationship building, and is now seen as the person who connected all of them, and now is being like, they're bringing more people in. A lot of people think they have to have already achieved a certain level of success or know-how, or no, just
or net worth.
Make the ask.
Right? Yeah.
Give it a try, see what happens, connect with people, get to know them, right? Build that relationship. And a lot of magic can happen.
I agree. I love it. We've talked about a lot today. It's a lot to unpack, but it's really starting with, do you want to roll through with what it's, I mean, you covered a couple good things, like sum it up for us.
Yeah. So sum it up. It's like, cut your hours down, right? Like get out of sardine land. So you got to get into salmon land, right? So think about what are those more sustainable clients or business ventures that will keep you great lifestyle, get that consistent, get it under 25 hours a week. Great if you can get it down to 20, 10, 15, right? But cut it down. Then free up your time and space to think about and build relationships with people so that you can do a bigger bear-like deal, right? So think about honestly, I didn't say this, but I'm going to add it in the recap. My mentor was like, once a week, I would sit down for 3 hours in silence and come up with one big crazy action that you can take, and take it. Right. Okay. So and keep it all aligned. So for me, it would be all right, I'm doing this 1%, maybe podcast, or maybe it's the 1% conference that comes with the podcast, whatever. And I'm just going to reach out to a 1%er that I'm going to message Elon Musk.
I'm going to take action.
Right. It's just to take action on something that you're I'm going to shoot my shot. It may not actually work out, but he's you take 52, 5, the first year, maybe 5, 6, 7 will work out. And then you do it the next year, and now you have momentum, and you have, other people that have been, then you do it again, and you'll have a significantly higher rate of success. Right. So it's choose your thing and take a big action towards it. Right. Ask yourself, who are the people that I want to be surrounded by or to know? Make a list and see how you're going to connect with them, how you're going to get into their circle. Maybe you create your own podcast. Maybe it's a YouTube channel. Maybe you just create a conference and invite them to come. I don't know, but just think, what could I do that would be seen as valuable or something they would want to do or participate in, but doesn't put me in a position looking like I'm asking for a favor off the bat. Right? Sure. Hi, nice to meet you. Can I have some deals? Right?
I need your name I need your
Yeah.
name so I can drop it. Yeah.
Right. Build that relationship. Um, so those are the big ones. I think I probably said some other things, but I think those are kind of the
I
big.
think that really summed it up, right? Because it's like your time is first because you can't do any of these other things unless it's the time. And then really think about what aligns with your skills and your values and your goals in life. Don't just do the thing that you think that some guru said on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So like take the time to think about what that generational wealth vehicle is for you because it's different for
Yes.
everyone. And then introduce yourself if you don't know these people, introduce yourself, give value, surround yourself with the type of people that align with that ultimate goal, right? And then you had mentioned something earlier about habits too.
Yeah, yeah. Like the thing, so here's something that actually will help with the big action every week sort of a thing.
Mhm.
My mentor shared this at an event, um, a private event, and it was just a concept around habits and how lot of people are like, for example, like I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to do this crazy workout, you know, routine 4 days a week or something like that. Like I'm going to do it. And what he said about habits was that like you, unless you already have the track record for going to the gym consistently, trying to go to the gym consistently and do this crazy killer workout is probably not like, that's probably, you
The
don't have
likelihood.
the attributes and the skills to do that yet. So he's
Mhm.
like, you need to like build the habit that will support that habit, right? Like you almost
Yeah.
need to, right? So it's like build
Just
the
show
habit
up
of
5
just
times.
going to the gym. And
Yeah.
he's like literally go to the gym. He's like, when people say you can build a habit in 21 days, he's like, it doesn't mean it's like 21 days of daily activity. So he's like, go to the gym for 21 days. But he's like, I don't care if you're there for like 5 minutes for 21 days, right? Like it's like just getting into the habit of going into the gym. Like you could
Yeah.
literally get in the habit and do like 2 push-ups every day, right? Like he's like, make it so ridiculously low that on your most exhausted day, you can still do it, right?
Mhm.
And then from there, you build on it. And he's like, people get so much further faster by doing things like that. So for me, if I'm gonna like reach out to like, let's just say Elon Musk, right? I need to get into the habit of just like reaching out to people online, right? So like maybe I don't even go for the big names. I'm just like building relationships and I do it every day. And I'm like every day just reach out to one person, new
Mhm.
person, and just be like, hey, say something nice, listen to your podcast, saw you posted this, whatever, and just get in the habit. And then once I've done that for about 3 weeks and I have that habit, then once a week I can do a bigger action of like, okay, now I need to say something to someone I don't even know if they're going to respond.
Sure.
um, so that you're building the habit that is needed. You're building the habit or the skill, you're really building the skill to be able to reinforce that thing you want to do regularly, right?
Yeah. It's like friendship dating up a level.
Yeah, 100%. Like I have a
Like
hard.
dating out of your league, but in your professional network, not
Right,
your
like
personal life.
I'm single, I want to be in a relationship, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna, swipe every day on social, like I'm gonna go on this amount of dates and I'm gonna do all these actions, right? No, I just need to be in the habit of opening the app every day or the habit of leaving my house. Like one of those two
Yeah.
things needs to happen before I have these big grandiose dreams of meeting the love of my life. Like I need to leave my home, right?
Yeah.
It's like get in the habit of leaving your house.
Leave
Step
your house. Yes, it's hard
leave
to
your
do these
house.
days.
Yeah.
Yes. I love it. Thank you for the recap. So much unpack and so much impact in this episode. If people want to reach you, where can they find you?
Yeah. So I would say two things. One, my website is nikkinash.co and the newsletter is launching very quickly. So there's an opt-in page to get like literally it's just secrets from the 1%. I'm not selling anything. I just am like sharing magic.
Yeah.
So there's that, but also I'm going to be, uh, my content has been shifting on Instagram more for me just sharing that. So that's the other good place. Like go on Instagram,
Insta.
send me a DM, say, hey, I was listening to you and Tina chat. If you have
Hmm.
questions or things like that, that's a really great place.
Awesome. And we'll tag you on Instagram as well when this goes live. So you'll be right there. Yes, that's awesome. So thank you again for today.
Anytime.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. The Women Choosing Growth Show is not just another podcast. It's a tribe of women helping each other grow. So please, share this podcast with all the women entrepreneurs that you would love to see succeed. If you'd like to know more about customized business advising through Cultivate Advisors, download business tools, or sign up for upcoming events, visit www.womenchoosinggrowth.com. Once again, that's www.womenchoosinggrowth.com. Remember, we are in this together. See you on the next one.